My name is Stephen Long, and I host a show here on Rock Candy called Sacred Tension, the podcast about the spiritual discipline of asking questions. We cover topics from LGBT issues to faith and doubt and mental health. We talk to biblical scholars and have conversations about religious abuse and leaving faith and finding it again. We also talk to pastors and skeptics and cult experts who are all sorting out their own journey of faith. Please join me in these conversations on Sacred Tension right here on Rock Candy.
Welcome to the Eleventylife podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Eleventylife. I am super pumped about this episode because we have Julia from the band Ratboys on Eleventylife today. We had an amazing conversation together, and I cannot wait to share it with all of you. First things first, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Huge hugs and high fives to our Eleventy friends, Sierra, Travis, and Hannah, who I was able to have Skype calls with this week, and it was literally the highlight of my week. I loved being able to sit down and talk with you guys. You are all amazing, phenomenal people, and you definitely made my week a lot brighter than it would have been normally. So my thanks go out to you. Thank you so much for spending time with me and for supporting our album campaign. For those of you who do not get outdoors much or are just catching up with episodes of the show, we have a brand new album out called Basic Glitches, and you can get to that via a link within our show notes. Huge hugs and high fives to everybody who is already following us on Spotify, who's gone to our website and clicked that follow button so that you get new music from us immediately when it comes out. And if you're not considering the cost that it has on the planet at large, this music is primarily free. Right now, we are working on some album commentary episodes of Eleventylife to talk through a lot of the questions that you guys have been giving us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter about the new album. It's going to be a good time, so stay tuned for that. This has been an amazing week at Rock Candy, and I want to share with you guys why. We just found out that our album, Basic Glitches, just broke the top 200 records in college radio. It's a really, really big deal for us. We are an incredibly scrappy upstart of a record label, and you guys all make everything that happens here possible. And so when we have something to celebrate here, it's all because of you guys. Every single time that you hit that follow button on Spotify, that you play our songs online, that you buy something from the online store, that you decide to reach out to other people within this community that you find interesting, you are helping to build and grow what we are doing. You are making this family larger, more inclusive, and at the end of the day, successful. So that was awesome, and it came hot on the heels of a terrible time that I had at the gym earlier this week when I decided to go for a run on the treadmill, and about 10 minutes into the treadmill run, I put on one of my favorite podcasts. It's called the No Sleep Podcast, and it's like a horror radio drama podcast that I listen to almost religiously. I'm not getting paid to say anything about them. This is not an ad spot, so please don't feel like you're being marketed to right now. Anyway, I got so immersed in this story while I was on the treadmill that I literally dozed off in the middle of running. I woke up having been thrown into the drywall behind me by my treadmill. It was kind of awesome. I've sustained a few injuries from it, nothing critical, but primarily what was damaged was just my ego. And my only regret is that everybody was not there to be able to see it and enjoy how ridiculous I looked falling off of this thing. So if you're having a bad week, at least you didn't fall off a treadmill. For everybody that's interested or already a part of our Eleventylife Facebook group, we have just started a channel on the Discord app. This is a really, really cool thing that allows everybody to be able to video chat with each other, to be able to have conversations, to talk about different things that happen in the episodes, to be able to share the music that you're working on. If you're an independent artist trying to hone your craft, there are some amazingly friendly and kind people who would love to check out what you're doing and also share a little bit of themselves with you. So head on over to the Eleventylife Facebook group. If you're not already a part of that community, download this app and click on that link, and it will immediately put you exactly where you need to be, amongst fellow unicorns and friends. Without further ado, we are going to get into this episode. I got to sit down with the lovely and talented Julia Stenier of Ratboys. And if you have not heard about this band, what the hell are you doing with your life? They are straight out of Chicago, and they have a brand new album coming out February 28th called Printer's Devil. And per usual on 11 Life, we got to talk about some of the songwriting process behind this album and kind of dig a little bit into Julia's brain and see what her creative process looks like. We had such a great time that we ended up splitting this episode into a two-parter. So for everybody who's like, Matt, why do you keep making episodes that are an hour and a half long and nobody can get through? We're listening and we're pivoting, okay? Settle down. If you want to find this episode even more enriching, I encourage you to head on over to our show notes and check out the link to Ratboys music there. Anyway, love you guys. Happy that you're here, and let's do the episode. Julia.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, sorry for all the technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, and I don't take all the blame for that. That's something is going a little bit crazy over here as well, and I apologize. As soon as we got connected, I was kind of like feverishly looking through the settings on all these apps, and my computer's just been so amazingly slow. Like I think I got hit with some kind of a virus or something.
Oh yeah, that sucks. No worries. Yeah, my laptop is very old and my phone's old too. I just need to update all my tech stuff, but haven't gotten around to it.
Are you like a holdout with that kind of stuff?
My phone, absolutely. I really don't want to give up the headphone jack. I like have these headphones. I just don't want to deal with having a dongle, and I like my phone. It's just dying, like very clearly, like losing battery life, all that stuff. So it's sad, but eventually I will have to concede defeat.
Yeah, I'll have like my phone will literally be held together with like duct tape and prayers before I walk in sheepishly to the Verizon store. Be like, somebody help me, because I always feel like every time I go in there, I'm being taken advantage of somehow.
I know. I feel like they're just everything's getting more complicated. I don't even know how to use the new ones. I feel helpless, but that's okay.
Are you comfortable on the phone, or are you a weird phone talker?
I think I'm good. As long as you can hear me. I just wanted to make sure. My phone, like I said, it's old. It's been notorious for like having weird audio issues, but as long as it's coming through like clear for you, then I'm totally good.
Oh, no. You were totally coming through clear. I am a weird phone talker. So a lot of times whenever we do the podcast like itself, it helps me to get visual feedback from people. So that's why we normally will do like a FaceTime or a Skype. Yeah, but
we could FaceTime like on my phone if you want.
Well, it's totally cool. What I don't want to do is like us to run into the weird like laggy stuff again.
Okay, for sure.
Because that wouldn't be fun for anybody.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So how's your day been?
My day's been pretty good. It's like sunny here in Chicago for the first time this year, pretty much. So that's kind of nice. There's like a skylight in my room that when the sun shines in the morning, it like hits me in the face. Yeah. And I haven't experienced that in many weeks. So that was a surprise this morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. We recently did like a Kickstarter. Well, it was like a couple months ago that the Kickstarter was over. So we basically the way that we do stuff in our band is like we don't like the idea of people paying us to get off our ass and make a record. So we'll go ahead and like foot the bill for the record. Well, we also we record it. We run a studio as well. So it's like, cool. So we do all of that stuff here. And then we'll use some sort of a crowdfunding to fund the release of it. So give us the option to do fun color variants on vinyl or new tee designs or kind of stock up on all that stuff.
That's cool to keep it in-house.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So I was returning some people got like a Skype package thing where like we Skype in with them. And And so I was like doing a bunch of those today. It's been really frustrating because it's been like the same issue over and over again.
Oh,
with
yeah.
all of the Skype stuff, but
Craziness. That's cool.
yeah.
From Asheville, right?
Yeah. From Asheville. Love it here. It's amazing. If you
Cool.
haven't been.
We've only been there once.
Where did you play?
It was when we were opening for Pup at the Grey Eagle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I've been to a bunch of shows at the Grey Eagle. I feel like that room to me feels a little bit dry. I don't know if you remember anything about it.
I do. The one thing I remember is that so Pup is like extremely popular band and their crowd is pretty young. And so they opened doors, I guess, really early, even though it wasn't traditional doors. Basically, there was a crowd of 40 teenagers watching us sound check, standing behind a chain. That was the doors, was like a chain blocking them off from the room. And so it was kind of awkward because they were excited and cheering, just cheering and jeering us while we sound checked. And I was like, oh God, this is not this is supposed to be a private experience, but
I mean,
whatever,
that's kind of the fun of teenagers is how fucking weird
God.
they are about everything.
I'm not used to it. Our crowd is a little bit older. And so that was a cool thing though on the tour to get to play to young kids who normally wouldn't really know about our music or just wouldn't find it the same way. So it was cool.
Yeah, I love that. Isn't it weird? It's just that 20 minutes difference between people watching you and it feeling like a weird fishbowl or like you're in a zoo. And if they'll just wait 20 minutes when you're supposed to be out there, it doesn't feel weird at all. It's like, oh yeah, that's...
Yeah, I don't even remember how it actually sounded. I just remember that weird experience. But I mean, Asheville's beautiful. We had a day off there once. We went to this really cool brewery on the top of a hill, and actually I got a shirt from there and of this really strange drawing. I guess I don't need to go on too long about it, but they had a thing where they would have local art on their cans.
Yeah.
Highland Brewing.
Highland,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and so I bought this crazy shirt with this crazy pig on it, and
oh my gosh, I think I know the artist that drew this pig.
Julie
Armbruster.
Yes, and the reason
that.
I know this is because it's on the back of the shirt. And so that's really smart because her name and the name of the brewery is on the back of the shirt. But anyways, I love this shirt. It's so strange. It looks like an Adventure Time still. And so anyways, yeah, that was another very memorable experience from Asheville.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you brought that up. So I actually know Julie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I used to play in this synth pop band called the Jelly Rocks, and we commissioned her to do one of our album covers. And
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, she's just she is the most beautiful person inside and out to work with. She's just she speaks artist lingo. So she understands if you're I don't have a ton of direction. I just have a bunch of conflicting emotions that I can talk to you about really quickly.
Yeah.
And she's really
That's
cool
awesome.
about helping you sort through that. So anyway, she's one of my faves.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dang, cool. Yeah, she seems like she has a big imagination, which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't think there's any taming that.
Hell yeah.
So one of the things that I can't remember how I actually came across your band. It's very, very likely that somebody slid a link to something that you guys had done in our DM or maybe it popped up on a Spotify playlist. I should have done a little bit of mental inventory about this before I talked to you.
No, that's great.
But either way, the way most people discover bands now is just happenstance. You happen to be on the Instagram feed or happen to have somebody pass along a name.
Yeah.
And I remember checking out your stuff and I was I absolutely love this. What drew me to it initially was just the effortlessness that I feel you had in all of your vocal deliveries. I feel they were super delicate, but also really sincere. I'm kind of I'm always drawn to this sort of cinematic indie pop stuff for one reason or another. Yeah. And I feel you guys kill that. Tell me a little bit about how you started into music and how you got into songwriting.
Well, I grew up with a mom who's really into music. My mom was a theater major in college and was just very active about like putting on songwriters in the car when we would drive to school. I remember so I'm the oldest of four, and when my youngest sister was born, my parents got us all like a really small little gift to kind of make us feel included. I think they gave it to us like from the baby.
Right.
I don't know, just some sort of like,
so
stupid
weird.
kid game or something, just to like make us bond with the new baby and whatever. But
was she afraid you guys were going to destroy it, or like what?
No, I think my mom is just a really good gift giver. That's like totally her love language, like 100%. She kills it at Christmas, and not in a ridiculous way, but just like she's very thoughtful about it. So anyways,
yeah.
She gave us those little gifts, and like the one that she gave me was this Monkeys cassette, which I'll never forget. And that was the first like physical copy of music that I ever owned. I mean, I was 6 years old, but so anyways, that like she just was always like, she's always been a very musical person, and so she kind of got me started early on with like, listening to the Beatles in the car on the way to school as a really small kid, and like listening to Sheryl Crow all the time. Just she was a big music listener and knew how to play guitar a little bit. And so anyways, she eventually encouraged us to learn piano, and then once I started taking an interest in guitar, she helped me learn a little bit. And yeah, during high school, I just kind of would spend a lot of time alone, like trying to learn and write little emotional songs and, just kind of explore this whole new part of myself. So yeah, it sounds a little cheesy. I just, I had friends and like a healthy social life, but I also was just very, I don't know, I've always kind of enjoyed my alone time. So it was a cool way to like express myself, but also get to, I don't know, like maintain my internal like imaginative life, my alone time. So yeah, and then eventually I went to college and met Dave, who's in the band, and we started the project, just the two of us, as like an acoustic indie duo. Yeah. And eventually it got bigger and louder. Yeah, it all kind of evolved from just writing songs by myself and learning from my mom, which is really nice.
That's so cool. Are any of your siblings also musically that way?
They all are. I'm the only one who's like pursuing music as a career, but my brother plays the banjo and like is a very active listener. He like texts me about bands all the time and stuff. And then my sisters are both in choir, and my youngest sister Beth plays guitar a lot, and yeah, they're both very good singers, and it's cool. I mean, my sister's a teacher, my other sister's going to be a doctor, and my brother's an accountant. So they're all like doing other very like important, time-consuming, like, I don't know, things. But they all have, they make time for music too, which we bond over.
That's awesome. Where are you in the birth order of your family?
I'm the oldest.
I knew it. I knew that we were going to have this in common. Okay,
cool.
I have 4 siblings. And
nice. Yeah. All younger?
They're all younger. So yeah, of course, like I have an immense amount of baggage about being the first to to sort of be the training wheels for my parents when it comes to kids. So yeah, I totally understand that. So I think that's kind of fascinating because the rest of my family are so much more practical, like think about life in a much more practical way, which is probably why they're less stressed than I am too. if I really sit down and like try to unpack that. But yeah, there's just like, I've felt myself drawn to it. I wonder if that, like at what age did you kind of start to experience that pull?
Pull like to music or just to more like a free spirit?
Yeah, just like sort of that
energy
in the doing something creative with your life or with your time, with your talent.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't have like ambitions to be a full-time musician when I was in high school or anything. I went to school, I studied English in college, and I always kind of had a desire to be a journalist or some sort of, I don't know, like when I was a little kid, I wanted to be like an announcer on ESPN. I've always been a big sports fan, particularly football. And so that was like my big passion. And so when Dave and I met at Notre Dame where we went to school, and there's a lot of sports and they have like a great English program. And so I felt like I was kind of setting myself up. But yeah, it's funny, like even when we first started touring, I don't think we didn't really think of it in a way that's like, okay, this is going to be our job now. Like we kind of just did it. Like we just booked a tour, and then we were like, we should book another one. And we just like kept booking tours for ourselves. Yeah. And finding ways to like make money at home. And so eventually in like 2017, 2 years after we started, like after 2 years of DIY touring, we like met our booking agents who, we met through like a mutual friend, and they work for like a very established booking agency.
Yeah.
We were like, oh wait, like now we have someone who has our best interest and is going to help us like actually grow this and make this official. Like, so then that's when everything kind of changed, and we're like, wait, we can like, and that's right around when GN came out. We were like, oh wait, we could like, we could really do this if we want to. And so, and we hadn't, and we did want to. And so I feel like I felt the pull of being a creative, like person very early in school and everything. That would always be my go-to to like make something. Like in addition to writing papers, I would like to, I don't know, just make something extra with it. Like, I don't know, give more of yourself, not just be analytical or spitting out facts, but I don't know, just put more imagination into it. So that started early on, but yeah, feeling the pull of like dedicating my life to having a career as a musician was, I don't know, we just kind of fell into it and then decided to really go for it a couple of years ago.
I love that. It does seem like that's like a recurring theme with a lot of bands is you kind of get into it and you're just sort of riding this current. You're not really sure what it is. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up and it's like you're thinking about your reality differently. Like, oh, I think I might actually could do this. It's like there's something really empowering about that moment.
Totally.
Yeah, because it's like people wait their entire lives for something to change their perspective on shit.
Totally.
And being in a band.
Yeah, I had some, developed some insecurities with touring. Like it was always me and Dave, but we kind of always had like a rotating cast of friends playing with us. And I was sure that was going to like hold us back in some way. And when we first, got hooked up with our booking agents, Wilson and Tom, I told them that I was like, full disclosure, guys, like we're touring with this drummer. You're here seeing us play with this person, but it might be a different person next time. Like, I want you to know that it's always going to be good, but you need to know that. And they were like, that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. We believe in you. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, and that like kind of snapped me out of it. I was like, hell yeah. Like, I believe in me. Like, we're doing good stuff. And at the end of the day, like, we've gotten really good at bringing anyone into the fold. And then luckily we ended up playing a lot with these same consistent people who are now like in the band full time. So it all worked out in the end. But yeah, definitely having them as like, just having them become invested in what we were doing. And like, it gave us a shot of confidence for sure. And we just feel so lucky that we connected, because that was very random. It was like just through a friend. And although I will say, like, one thing about touring that's so cool is you just meet tons of people. Like, if you're open to it, it's not even networking in my head. It's more just like, as cheesy as this sounds, just like trying to make friends, like just being open to all the relationships that are out there for you. And so like we met them through a friend that we made on the road. And so it's like something that we were really passionate about, not just playing music, but connecting with people all over the world is still like our favorite thing.
I feel like touring is this weird sort of dynamic, and I really want you to weigh in on this. I'm like naturally a pretty high anxiety person, and I'll like swing back and forth like pretty quickly. So there's some days where I'm like, yeah, let's get a few drinks in and let's like level this shit up. And then there are other times where I'm like, gosh, I really hope nobody comes and says anything to me. Like, I just kind of want to blend into the background. If I get out of here with like a really nice conversation with someone that doesn't feel super topical or forced, like I'll be happy, but I'm in my head. And I feel like touring is this practice of being present, because you don't have another way to do it. If you withdraw, you are withholding all of the parts of yourself that everyone wants you to expose to them. You know what I mean? Like they are attracted to your artistry, to your songs, to this idea of what they think you are, and they want to be able to explore that when you are there. And the only way they can do that is if you're willing to also be present. And that was always a challenge for me, to like not be withholding, but also not just like put myself in too vulnerable of a situation where it's like I'm too stressed to be able to think about anything. I don't know what that's like for you, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's touring is daily, just like a compromise of, like you said, being available to people and just being open to having conversations and talking and continuing relationships with people you know before and meeting new people. But also, yeah, I mean, it's important to draw the line for when you can recognize that you're feeling exhausted and you need to take a step away. Like at the end of the day, no one's going to like fault you for that.
Yeah.
It's funny though. Like for me, it's just a real like ebb and flow of energy. The way that I enjoy touring and that I can find it sustainable and that I survive is, for me, I don't drink or smoke on tour. I stay sober. It's like the one thing that I can really control. And I'm all about control. It's just like part of my personality. And so another thing is like, I'm very much a planner and like into routine. And so especially as we've started kind of playing venues and clubs, there's a very distinct routine on tour. Like you wake up, you drive, you get to the show, you sound check, you eat, and then you play, whatever. Like it's an order of your day, and that really keeps me focused. And I find that if I have like too much free time or like on off days, I kind of let my mind wander, and that's when it gets tough for me. As much as it sucks, like there's ways that you can pause and reflect and become creative or like let your imagination run on tour, but at the end of the day, the way that I'm able to kind of like do it is to focus on those kind of more logistical aspects.
Yeah.
And then that makes like the release of playing the show like the best thing, because it's so different from the rest of my day.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I'm just naturally like drawn to tour managing and stuff like that. So I don't know, someday if we ever hire a tour manager or if we ever need to have like a bigger production, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but I'll figure it out.
I'm sure you'll figure out your role for that. This is what I want to know. Where does the control come from? And if you can hang on to that for a second, like where do you think the need to maintain control comes from? And what is the worst thing that could happen if you didn't have that?
God, I hate being late. That is something that I attempt to control every day. Like I make sure we wake up on time and stay, on track while we're driving and stopping and stuff.
Yeah.
That's like a really specific example, but I don't know why. I just like honoring a promise that I've made to someone that I'll be somewhere at a certain time. So I'm working on that though, because like sometimes it's okay to be 15 minutes late. And it's not worth like being a jerk or like bringing it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is something that I'm 100% like conscious of now. I feel like I'm learning every time we go out, like how to be a better bandmate and a better like leader. And so working on that, but yeah, that's something that's like a priority for me. I don't know, like it's just so like not musical, all of this like logistics and stuff, but I don't know. I just like personally always enjoyed being in charge. I don't know if it's like we were talking about earlier, like being the oldest. I have always just felt empowered, and I think maybe it's at a root of anxiety too, just having that control makes me feel more like peace of mind or something. But at the same time, I also really like touring because in the midst of all that routine and that like rigid decision making, there's a lot of room for spontaneity. Like when you stop at a gas station, you could, like, I remember one time at this gas station, I think it was like on the New York tollway. We try to avoid the tolls because they're so expensive
of course.
with our trailer.
Yeah.
But we couldn't avoid them this one day. Anyways, we were stopped at one of those plazas, and like, I swear to God, like 500 like army people were there, just like rolled up on a convoy. We were like surrounded by like people in fatigues. It was so strange, but like they were just doing the same things we were, like going to the bathroom, stopping at Subway, whatever. Like, so but that was such a strange like visual. Anyways, so you just run into like crazy little moments on tour, and I really like that. Like, I'm not afraid of that, or like I welcome that stuff too. So it's like a great mix of routine and weirdness that happens too.
Yeah. I feel like I can relate so much to what you're saying. And I feel like it's also like it was a source of anxiety for us when we were touring really heavily. Like we got started really young. And so we got signed to this label when we were like 19, had no idea how the music industry worked or like what was happening, or like we were just kind of going off of the good faith of the adults in our lives that they somehow knew what was happening or how we should be approaching this. And over time, the band itself forces you to push a lot of those conceptions that you have of people away and to have to figure your shit out like on your own, because you realize that everybody has different things that they want out of this. And the dynamic can become like super complicated. Do you remember, like, since the beginning of the start of your band till now, what the lowest point was for you?
Like on tour or just in general?
Yeah, just it, as a lot of times it can be like the leaving of a member. It can be like a show where everything just goes wrong.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was probably when we had to part ways with our former bassist. And I don't really want to go into too much detail. It was kind of a sensitive time, and he's still someone that I care about, even though we haven't spoken in a minute. I would never want to talk too personally about our relationship and all that. Yeah. But yeah, that was really hard. We were in Europe. It was the longest tour we had done to that point, kind of like naively took on this extremely long tour. Or actually, it was like 3 different tours that we kind of just did in a row.
Strung together.
And so, and so it was like 10 weeks and we were exactly halfway done. And we were as far away from where we started in Europe as we could be. And so we were just like, it's not like we could just go, like, return the van and leave. We couldn't go home. And so, I mean, we could, but it would cost so much money and just be like a total waste.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, miles more important than that was the emotional chaos of figuring out what to do and what's best for him and everybody. And so it was like, I don't think I ate for 3 days. It was just completely like, I felt like a zombie. And I was trying to be, conscientious and communicate very well and all this stuff. And we had to play music like every night too. And so it was confusing, but I will say, like, that's the date that I decided to no longer, like, to be sober on tour. And so that was an important day for me. And honestly, as much as I, again, like, care about this person and I'm happy that we had experiences together in the band and stuff, like, that everything has kind of grown and the band has just, I don't know, I feel like we've kind of grown into ourselves a little bit more since then. So that was definitely a low point, but I mean, I don't have regrets about it. And yeah.
So just like assuming that this is completely your side of the story and we don't get to hear the other side of the story, are these like just interpersonal conflicts that are happening between different members of the band or?
No, okay. We were all very close friends. It was more, and again, I want to be very vague because it's none of anyone's business. Right, really. It was more of a substance abuse issue and some issues from back with other people.
Yeah.
So, we were just trying to make the safest, best choice for everybody. So
yeah,
it was crazy, but I think we did the best we could. And, we were able to salvage the tour, which was really important because we didn't come home feeling defeated. I feel like if we had decided to just cancel everything and come home, I don't know if our band would have really recovered at all. We were able to we were on tour with another band who we were very close with. And so we kind of just like, they filled in for us, we filled in for them. And I
love that.
And we were able to keep it going. But yeah, it was a confusing time for sure. But it's been 3.5 years. So
we've had very similar experiences in our band with members and with managers and with in varying dynamic roles within interpersonally. And so I totally relate to, man, sometimes you just get put in a situation where something has to happen, something's going to have to come to a halt, and somebody's going to get hurt. And when you and the farther that you zoom out of it, the more it's like, it's nobody's fault. This is how it ended up. This is where the kettle started to boil. And we have to figure out how to not scald everybody. Like,
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
do you spend a lot of time, I'm asking this, I'm projecting a little bit here. Do you spend a lot of time beating yourself up over decisions, like replaying them in your mind, like going back? Because that's totally me, especially when it comes to really tough shit like that. Like when it comes to band members or like pivotal moments in band history.
I like to think that we haven't really burned like any bridges, hopefully.
Yeah.
I try to, I try my best to have like zero enemies on this planet. I'm not sure if I've achieved that, but I think I have. I fucking hope so.
Zero enemies. I love that.
Yeah, I don't really. I find that I just get fixated on stuff and it's not productive at all. I think the main thing I do think about sometimes, and this is so silly to even talk about, but just like after band practice sometimes now I'll be like, I didn't need to like bring up that little tiny detail or something. I often like, after we play a song, I'll be like, I think that one part could be like a little louder or like a little quieter, or we kind of rush a tiny bit at this part. And everyone's like, okay, whatever. Like, and I don't think they're dismissing me at all, but it's like sometimes just play the song and feel it and move on. You don't need to have input on every single thing. So that's something I'm working on with practice, and something that, sometimes when I'm laying in bed at night, I'm like, just chill out. Like, it's all good.
Dude.
We're doing a good job.
I totally relate to that. And I don't know if it's like a firstborn thing or not, to go back to that, but it's just walking around doing this constant dance of life editing. So it's, and the weird thing is, it's a two-sided coin, because on the one hand, it drives everybody nuts, and you can give the impression to everybody else that nothing they ever do is good enough.
I know.
And then that can turn into a dynamic. But then the other side of that too is like, even when you are sitting there alone with your thoughts, you're like, this is the same source that is manifesting itself in this really difficult way for everybody else, is also the thing that I turn to improve myself. It's my internal gauge. It's my like constantly striving to be better in those ways. So it might be driving people crazy one minute, but the next minute it's giving me a higher level of empathy for them, because I'm second guessing how much empathy I had in the first place,
Yeah, that's like too much. It's crazy. Like it's funny to think about, to empathize with someone like empathizing with me. I've never really thought about that before. I don't know. Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like you're having some good insights here. It's something that I work on, just trying to find that balance of affirmation, and then also like sometimes there are little details that you need to refine. And so making those observations without seeming overly critical or putting anyone down. I would never want to do that. So
it's a skill, dude.
But there's a way to do it.
Yeah. And I'm not. Please don't take this as me being like, oh yeah, I figured this shit out. I'm the worst at it.
No, I'm just enjoying this. I think it's interesting.
Do you think that, maybe I should phrase the question this way. How much do these sort of internal monologues that you're having with yourself make their way into the lyrical content of the songs that you write?
God, I don't know. I feel like I'm being pretty, I'm like pretty picky, like, and I'm revising stuff all the time with lyrics and stuff. So I don't know, as far as like when we're jamming and I'm just kind of like improvising and singing and weird lyrics come out, that's a different story. I feel like maybe like the subconscious, the weird, like just kind of like the surface level, like, or maybe even not, like the deep weird stuff that comes out when you're messing around. That might be, maybe that's more reflective of like my inner my dumb, like trivial inner battles. I don't know, like when I write songs, I'm usually pretty intentional about wanting to write about a certain time or a fictional idea or a non-fictional idea that has nothing to do with me. And so I don't know. I don't think I've ever written, Alien, the new song, the first song on a new album, is definitely about like feeling like chaos inside your own head. But That's probably the most overt I've been about that. But otherwise, I just like, part of me is like, how can I make this compelling at all? I guess a lot of people, probably all of us, can relate to that. But yeah, I never want to be like whiny or like pining for some sort of clarity when, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good most days, but yeah, that song is like the one that kind of looks at that for the first time, I guess.
I can totally relate to that. I feel like I would much rather read something that Existential Crisis Matt like had going on in his subconscious, because it always feels kind of like fun and personally revelatory in some regard. And then, but if I just sit down and have it be like a paint by numbers thing, like, okay, here's a breakup song, it's kind of not as fun. So
it's fun to just kind of see how it ends up sometimes. Like, I don't know, have these lyrics and kind of look at them and be like, okay, what is this? And like kind of build off of that. Yeah. Then and make it into something that you didn't really know it was before.
So when you guys were prepping for this record, I can't remember when I actually reached out to you guys, but it was a few months ago before we actually landed on a time to do this.
Yeah, I think it was like back in August or something.
Yeah. Were you guys in the process of recording, or had you already banked that record?
We had already finished it. Okay. It was all finished and like ready to go actually by like, I think May or June last year, which was pretty wild because, and that includes boring stuff, like figuring out, there were like a couple things we wanted to adjust in our contract and like things like that. And so after all that, and that took some time, after everything was done and the dust was cleared, it was like June. And we were like, you know what, we could put this out in October and it would probably be okay. But at the same time, with GN, our previous record, we had kind of rushed it a little bit. We recorded it in January and put it out in June. And it was a couple things kind of got lost, and there were a couple like weird mistakes that were from rushing it. And so we were like, how cool would it be if we just like waited for a minute and booked a really good tour and like made a plan? And so, yeah, it was all done in August, but we knew we wanted to like slow and just conscientious when we were.
Is that hard? Is that hard for you? Because I hate it. Like I mean, I know it's the best thing when you record stuff to sit on it. And the older that I've gotten, the longer that we've done this, the more I'm like, okay, well, the last thing that you want to do, like if you're an indie, like I feel like we talk to a bunch of indie bands a lot, and they're like, they'll get a single and it's like, okay, we're putting it out next week. And I'm like, yeah, so nobody actually puts music out that quickly, which maybe even that's changing with like SoundCloud rappers being a thing now, where people literally can just like clap back super quickly. But I find that time that you sit on it and like ruminate on it has been really helpful for me personally, because it gives me a chance to sort of look at everything I just said and figure out a way to talk about it coherently. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I mean, that's been helpful. It was nice because we were able to like work with our friend who's a really good publicist, Jamie Coletta. And I don't think we would have been able to work with her otherwise because she's so busy. She like kind of books stuff far in advance. And so the timing really well. And it's weird. Like part of me hates the long rollout because, and again, this is probably BS and like me projecting my own like weird insecurity about how people are thinking of me or something, but it's kind of like sometimes when you announce a record and then finally 3.5 months later put it out, to me it almost feels like there's some sort of like self-importance, like, oh, we got something really good, we're gonna like make you wait for it, you know. Which is like so insane. Like, obviously that's not how we feel. And I feel like probably zero people think that that's how we feel. But it's like, it's not like I want to make people wait. Like, I'm happy to show you the music. I just,
Julie,
it was more like a logistics thing.
This
like,
is you.
For instance,
this is you trying to control other people's perception of you.
Oh God,
it's another thing you're controlling.
I know, it's good. I'm glad that people don't feel that way. I'm glad that it's just me, like creating some crazy scenario. But it's funny, like because we announced the album in November, but then in December, a lot of people just like kind of take that whole month off.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the media is dedicated to year-end lists. And last year it was extra like focused on that because there were a lot of like decade lists. And so it's hard to get coverage in December. And so anyways, announced in November, kind of didn't even really push it in December that much because there wasn't much like room for it.
Yeah.
And then finally after the holiday in January and now February, we can like pick it up again. But yeah, it feels like 4 months of just like trying to build anticipation. And it's hard to find new ways to do that for me. I'm not a salesperson by trade. And so it's, I'm really bad at it.
That is it for the first part of our conversation with Julia from Ratboys. Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with us. I will see you next week for part 2.
Eleventy Life is a production of Rock Candy Recordings and Rock Candy Media. Every time you subscribe to Eleventy Life, a unicorn disembowels your green